The warm breeze of New Orleans wrapped around me as soon as I got out of the car, bringing with it a whisper of ancient stories that seemed to dance in the leaves of the trees. The mansion loomed before me, majestic and somewhat eerie, with its large windows filled with cobwebs, as if it were guarding secrets of a forgotten past. The sun was setting behind it, tinting the sky with shades of orange and purple, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the house had something to tell me. "Wow," I murmured, as I took in every detail of the facade. "This place is perfect for a fresh start." There was something magical about those weathered walls, as if each brick had a tale to tell. I grabbed my bag and approached the solid wood door, feeling the cold metal of the doorknob. With a gentle push, the door creaked open, and I stepped inside. The smell of mildew and old wood enveloped me immediately. The light was dim, filtering through the dusty curtains, and the air felt heavy, laden with memories. I walked slowly, admiring the height of the ceilings and the crystal chandeliers, which swayed slightly with the breeze coming through the open windows. I could imagine the parties that had taken place there, the laughter, the whispered conversations, but there was also an unsettling feeling, as if the echoes of the past still inhabited every corner. That night, as I organized my painting materials in the makeshift studio I had created in the room, a soft, childlike laugh echoed from the attic. I paused for a moment, brush suspended in the air. I was overcome with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. It was just my imagination, I thought, trying to convince myself. But the laughter repeated, louder and clearer, as if a child was having fun up there. "Hello," I called a bit hesitantly. "Is anyone there?" The response was an absolute silence, which only heightened my unease. I shook my head, trying to dismiss the strange feeling that was creeping in. I was alone in that house, right? Just me and the energy of the walls. I decided that I would not let fear take over. "Emma, you are an artist. Focus on your art," I murmured to myself, turning my attention back to the blank canvas in front of me. But the truth was, even as I tried to concentrate, the childlike laughter continued to resonate in my mind, like a persistent echo. I gave up on painting and instead approached the window, looking out at the moonlight illuminating the garden. The shadows danced as if they were alive too. "Maybe I should go up there and see what's going on," I said aloud, almost challenging myself. But the idea of exploring the attic made me nervous. What if there was no one there? What if it was something more, supernatural? I had always been skeptical about such things, but there was something about that house that left me on edge. The feeling that I was not alone was palpable. "What are you waiting for, Emma?" A neon sign, I told myself, trying to shake off the insecurities. But deep down, a part of me wished to ignore those sounds and immerse myself in my art. After all, maybe that was exactly the inspiration I was looking for. I took a deep breath and returned to the canvas, but the sensation of being watched would not leave me in peace. It was as if the house's eyes were upon me. As the night wore on, the laughter faded, but the unease remained. While I tried to ignore the sounds, a shadow crossed the room, and I turned quickly, my heart racing. "Emma, you're going crazy," I thought, feeling a chill run down my spine. But a part of me knew that there was something more in that house. Something I still couldn't comprehend, but that was somehow connected to my own story. I closed my eyes, trying to focus on the painting, but the feeling that there was something hidden in the shadows of the attic would not let me be. And so, as the night deepened, I realized that the mansion, with its mysteries and secrets, was just beginning to reveal itself to me. The echo of the childlike laughter still reverberated in my mind as I explored the dark corners of the mansion. The sunlight filtered through the dusty windows, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Every step I took seemed to resonate in the heavy silence of that old house, as if the very beams were whispering secrets I had yet to uncover. Curiosity pulled me forward, and I knew I needed to understand what was really happening. I entered the living room, where furniture covered with white sheets looked like ghosts from a distant past. My fingers slipped over the surface of a dark wooden table, and as I lifted a corner of the sheet, I found a stack of framed photographs. The images were in black and white, but I could still feel the vibrancy of those lives that once inhabited that space. It was a family, and among them were 2 children smiling at the camera with bright, lively eyes. "Who are you?" I murmured to myself, feeling a knot form in my stomach. I picked up one of the photographs, and as I looked closer, I noticed the children bore a resemblance to what I had sensed in the laughter from the attic. Something about them seemed to call out to me. "What happened to you?" The question hung in the air, unanswered. Feeling an urgent need to know more, I decided to visit the local library. The atmosphere of the place was welcoming, but an unsettling feeling accompanied me as I searched for information about the history of the house. The shelves were filled with old books, and the smell of aged paper enveloped me like a familiar embrace. Finally, I found a volume that promised to reveal the mysteries of New Orleans. Flipping through the pages, I came across a chapter dedicated to haunted houses. My heart raced as I read about a mansion that perfectly matched the description of my new residence. "The children disappeared under mysterious circumstances," the text said. "It is said that their souls remain trapped in the house, laughing and playing, but also crying for freedom." A chill ran down my spine. I looked around, as if the ghosts I sought were there, watching me. "It can't be true," I murmured, but a part of me knew it was. The laughter I heard was echoes of a past that still haunted that place. That night, the intensity of the sounds increased. The laughter, once soft, became more insistent, as if the children were enjoying an endless game. I was sitting in my studio, trying to focus on a blank canvas, but the feeling of being watched grew stronger. I looked at the attic door, which remained ajar, and an inexplicable urgency pushed me toward it. "Emma, come play." A soft, childlike voice floated through the air, making my heart race. It was irresistible, as if I were being pulled by an invisible thread. "We'll just look, I promise." The words were both an invitation and a warning. I hesitated, but curiosity overtook me, and I stood up, determined to discover the source of that voice. I climbed the stairs toward the attic, each step creaking under my weight. The atmosphere changed as I approached, becoming heavy and electric. As I opened the door, I was greeted by a scene that seemed frozen in time. Dusty toys covered the floor, and a soft light emanated from somewhere dark. The laughter was now closer, surrounding me like a fog of joy and sadness. "Who's there?" My voice sounded tremulous, and the response came in the form of laughter echoing in my chest. I looked around, trying to understand what was happening. I was alone, but the presence of something or someone was palpable. "If you're here, show yourself," I shouted, feeling adrenaline coursing through my veins. The response was immediate, but not in the way I expected. The laughter ceased, and a profound silence took over the attic, as if the spirits themselves were waiting for my next move. Fear and excitement conflicted within me, and I knew that somehow I had awakened something that could not be ignored. I climbed the stairs to the attic with my heart pounding in my chest. Each step seemed to echo in the empty house, and the laughter that had once intrigued me now sounded like an irresistible call. The attic door was slightly ajar, as if it were waiting for me. The air around was thick and heavy, a mix of nostalgia and a light breeze that made me shiver. As soon as I placed my feet on the last step, I was enveloped by a strange atmosphere, as if time had stopped there. The attic was filled with old toys, covered by a fine layer of dust, each one holding memories of a past I still didn't know. A wooden car, a porcelain doll with a faded dress, and a music box that, when played, could have danced to the sound of children's laughter. I approached the car, running my fingers over the worn wood. Who played with you? I murmured, almost expecting the object to respond. At that moment, a soft laugh echoed in the air, and I froze. It was a child's laugh, clear and joyful, but at the same time, there was a melancholy that sent a chill down my spine. "Emma," whispered a voice like a breeze, and my name sounded like a familiar tune. "Emma, come play with us." Adrenaline surged through my body, but curiosity was stronger than fear. "Who's there?" I asked, trying to sound brave, but my voice came out trembling. The silence that followed felt heavy with expectation. I took a deep breath and, with a hesitant gesture, touched one of the toys, a small marble that gleamed even under the layer of dust. As my finger made contact, a soft light radiated from the object, and before me, two childlike figures began to take shape. They were children, perhaps 6 or 7 years old, with golden hair and bright smiles. They looked at me with eyes full of joy and an innocence that made my heart ache. "Hi, Emma," said the girl, her warm smile lighting up the room. "You finally came. Who are you?" I managed to ask, despite the confusion overwhelming my mind. "We're Lily and Ben," replied the boy, nodding his head. "We live here, but we can't leave. Can you help us?" Panic began to settle in my chest. Help? How? I was paralyzed, unable to process what was happening. The children seemed so real, so alive, but at the same time, I knew they were spirits, souls trapped in this place. "You just need to play a little," said Lily, with a mischievous glint in her eyes. "If you play, we can leave." "But I don't know how to help," I said, my voice almost lost in the vastness of the attic. "What happened to you?" The children's laughter turned into soft whispers, and Lily's expression changed, as if a shadow had passed over her. "We left too soon," she said, almost in lament. "And now we're stuck here. We need your help, Emma." What was I about to do? I was about to get involved in something far beyond my understanding. The laughter intensified, and the whispers merged into a chorus of voices calling my name. "Emma, come play. Emma." With a sudden impulse, I stepped away from them, running to the attic door. Behind me, the laughter turned to screams, and the atmosphere around me grew heavy, as if a storm were about to form. "No, wait," Ben's voice echoed, but I couldn't look back anymore. Fear took over me, and I needed to get out of there. As I descended the stairs and the attic door closed behind me, the voices continued to echo in my mind. "Emma, Emma." A sense of despair enveloped me, and I realized that the laughter, once joyful, was now a haunting call from lost souls, pleading for release. The day after my visit to the local library dawned heavy with anticipation and a chill that wouldn't leave me. I knew I needed answers, and the only person who could help was the medium mentioned in one of the conversations at the bookstore. The sun had barely risen through the heavy clouds of New Orleans, but my mind was as turbulent as the waters of the Mississippi in a storm. Deep down, I felt it wasn't just curiosity. It was an uncontrollable need to understand what those children's laughter truly meant. Arriving at the small studio of the medium, an old house that exuded the scent of incense and mystery, I was greeted by a woman with gray hair and deep eyes that seemed to look right through me. The environment was decorated with tapestries and crystals. Each detail seemed carefully chosen to evoke a sense of spirituality. "You are the young woman from the mansion, aren't you?" Her voice was soft, but there was a firmness that made me feel as if she already knew everything about me. "Yes," I replied, trying to control the tremor in my voice. I heard laughter coming from the attic, and I discovered that the children who lived there, they died in a tragic way. The medium nodded, her eyes closing for a moment as if she were listening to something I could not. "The spirits are bound to this house for a reason. They need help. Let's try to establish a connection." I sat in front of her, my heart pounding, as she began to chant words in a strange language, almost like a song. The atmosphere around us started to change. The air felt denser, charged with an energy I couldn't identify. I could sense the presence of the children, as if they were lurking behind me, their laughter turning into whispers that seemed to call my name. Suddenly, the medium began to convulse, something clearly out of the ordinary. "They are here!" she screamed, her voice changing, now higher and more childlike. "Why won't you help us?" It was as if one of the children had taken over her, and I was frozen, my mind swirling in a whirlwind of fear and curiosity. "How can I help?" I asked, feeling a wave of despair. "What happened to you?" They promised we would be safe." The medium's voice distorted, each word a struggle. "But they didn't keep their word. We are trapped." Tears began to fill my eyes. "Who didn't keep their word? What happened to you?" The urgency in my voice was palpable. "She made a pact to protect us. But now we are shadows. Lost shadows." The words came out in a distressed whisper, and I felt the pain of those souls echoing inside me. The laughter I had heard in the mansion now seemed a distant echo, overshadowed by the sadness that enveloped the room. The medium, still possessed, looked at me with an intensity that made me shiver. "You are the key, Emma. You can break the chains that bind us. But the truth is dark. You must be prepared." The heat of panic rose in my chest. What did this mean? The need to protect the children had transformed into something sinister, and a part of me wondered if this connection with them was really what I desired. The voices of the children intertwined, pleading and crying, as I tried to comprehend the gravity of the situation. I don't understand. What should I do?" I asked, my voice trembling, now filled with uncertainties. The medium seemed to struggle against the presence, and with each passing second, the atmosphere grew more oppressive. "Discover the truth!" shouted the child, before the medium finally came to herself, breathing heavily as if she had emerged from a deep dive. "I had a vision. The children are desperate, Emma. They want to be free, but they can't do it alone. You need to find out what really happened, what your mother knows, what she did." Her words echoed in my mind, and the connection I felt with those spirits deepened. I knew the path ahead would be dangerous and full of revelations. But one thing was certain. I could no longer ignore the echoes of the past resonating in the mansion. Something deep and dark was lurking, and I was determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. As I climbed the creaking stairs toward the attic, my heart raced out of rhythm. The atmosphere around me was charged, as if the house itself was breathing along with me. The children's laughter, which had once intrigued me, now became a cacophony of distorted echoes, mixed with screams of despair that seemed to come from within me. When I finally reached the attic door, a sense of foreboding washed over me. I knew I had to face what awaited me. I pushed the door open with a resonant creak, and the darkness of the attic swallowed me whole. The dim light from the lantern I carried illuminated only part of the space, revealing furniture covered in dusty sheets and a pile of old toys tossed in a corner, as if they had been abruptly abandoned. The air was thick and heavy, and an unsettling energy pulsed around me. "Why are you here?" I murmured, my voice echoing against the cold walls. The laughter fell silent, and a chill ran down my spine. I hesitantly walked toward a worn trunk that stood out amid the chaos. With some effort, I opened the lid, revealing a dusty diary, its yellowed pages nearly disintegrating under my touch. Curiosity overwhelmed me, and I began to flip through the pages, each revealing words written in a hurried, desperate handwriting. "My dear children, darkness is approaching," I read aloud. "I made a pact, an agreement to keep you safe." With each word, a growing weight settled in my chest. The diary belonged to the children's mother, and her notes spoke of deep sorrow, of a love that had become a burden. "If I don't do this, I may lose them forever," one of the last entries read. My stomach twisted as I realized the gravity of the situation. Emma, Emma. Whispers began to float through the air, like a cold breeze, and the children's laughter returned, now distorted and anguished. I felt as if I was being watched, as if the children were there, around me, waiting for me to understand. "I can't stay here," I screamed, trying to drown out the echoes. "What do you want from me?" But the answer did not come. The silence was broken only by the whispers intensifying, and the walls seemed to close in around me. The diary trembled in my hands, and as I tried to process the revelation, the negative energy began to coalesce, as if every feeling of despair from the mother was manifesting within me. I wanted to run, but something held me back. The medium's voice echoed in my mind. "They are trapped, Emma. They need you." Those words, which had once seemed distant, now made perfect sense. The mother had made a dark pact to protect the children, and that pact was the reason they were there, trapped between worlds, waiting for release. "Please, I just want to help," I cried, but the screams grew louder, more frantic, and I felt as if I was being pushed to the brink of madness. The attic, which had once seemed like a refuge, was now becoming a prison. The children's laughter turned into desperate cries, and I no longer knew what was real and what was an illusion. Then, amidst the chaos, a soft voice stood out. "Emma, help us." It was a familiar whisper, and suddenly, an image began to form in my mind. The figures of the children, smiling but with sad eyes, filled the space around me. "How can I help?" I asked, desperate. "What do you need from me?" But instead of answers, the only thing I heard was the echo of their laughter, now mixed with a deep lament, as if all the hopes and fears of those lost souls were intertwining into a single cry. The attic was alive, pulsing with the pain and anguish of a past that could not rest. The feeling of despair enveloped me, and with each moment, I felt I was closer to understanding the truth that haunted me. The attic was shrouded in a dense twilight, and the air was heavy with a mix of nostalgia and despair. I felt my heart race as I climbed the creaking stairs, the echo of my footsteps resonating on the old wood. The children's laughter, which had once sounded like joyful giggles, now felt more like a haunting call, an appeal I could not ignore. When I finally reached the top, the atmosphere was charged with palpable electricity, as if the very space were alive. "Why are you calling me?" I shouted, my voice trembling, reverberating between the walls of the attic. There was no immediate response, just the sound of soft and restless breaths, as if the spirits were deliberating. The cold emanating from the place seemed to penetrate my bones, and I realized I was not alone. The dusty toys around me seemed to watch, and the shadows danced on the walls in a sinister manner. "Emma," a child's voice whispered, and I quickly turned to see two children, a girl and a boy, with angelic faces and sad expressions. They floated a little above the ground, with a soft glow that contrasted with the darkness of the attic. "We need you," the girl said, her voice sounding like a distant echo. "We're trapped here. You can help us." "How? What do I need to do?" I didn't know whether I should be scared or intrigued, but the connection between us was undeniable. There was something in their gazes that reminded me of a lost childhood, an innocence I didn't want to let slip away. "You need to break the cycle," the boy replied, his expression heavy with a weight that seemed far beyond his age. "But that requires a sacrifice." My hands clenched into fists, and a wave of despair washed over me. "Sacrifice? What do you mean by that?" I was paralyzed, horror growing inside me. The idea of sacrificing something so precious left me tense. "I can't. I don't know if I can. It's the only way," the girl insisted, tears shining in her ethereal eyes. "Our mother, she made a pact, and now you are the only one who can free our souls." I remembered the diary I had found, the mother's words echoing in my mind. The dark pact, the sorrow, the loss. The connection was becoming stronger, and a terrifying truth began to form in my mind. You are my siblings? The idea struck me like lightning. My sister's disappearance, the pain I carried, it all made sense at that moment. Yes, the boy's voice was soft but laden with urgency. You need to decide, Emma. Sacrifice yourself, or we will remain here forever. I hesitated, feeling the weight of that choice crashing down on me. But what if there's another way? What if I find a way to save all of us? The thought of leaving those spirits trapped, of leaving my own life behind, left me in a state of emotional paralysis. There is no other way, the girl replied, her voice turning into a lament. You need to understand, we are part of you. The only way to free us is for you to join us. I looked at them, and the light surrounding them began to shine brightly, almost blinding. A wave of love and sadness enveloped me, and the connection between us was so strong that I could feel their hearts beating in unison with mine. I can't do this, I whispered, struggling against the idea that my life could be the answer. You have to choose, Emma. Their voices rose in a chorus, and the energy within the attic began to intensify, forming a whirlwind around me. The laughter and whispers blended into a deafening sound, and I realized there was no way to escape. The light around me grew more intense, and the feeling of being pulled inside was overwhelming. Please don't leave me, I screamed, but it was as if my voice was being swallowed by the storm of emotions forming. I was paralyzed, torn between the desire to save those innocent souls and the will to live, to find a way that didn't involve total loss. And in that moment of despair, the faces of the children became clear in my mind, and I realized that no matter what choice I made, the bond between us could never be broken. The light intensified, and I knew that the final decision was about to be made.